Hey, what's going on? We just finished week 6 of our WDI course. This week we covered, starting on Monday, we did project feedback. Since last week was our project week, we actually sat down with an instructor for a little while and went over what we did well, what we didn't do so well. But it was nice to get their feedback and kind of see a few things that we should have done differently and things we could improve on from here until the end of the course. If we find some time, we can add the extra little feature that we didn't have time for, so that'll be nice. We also spent all day basically working on logic problems being ones that you might see on interviews, so this was really nice getting prepared for those. Since most of us do not have computer science backgrounds, these are problems that we're not familiar with, and since they will be asked on interviews, it'll be really good to see us work on them and the progress we make and our ability to answer them correctly on interviews. And then lastly, for homework, we just had Intro to Ruby, some reading material for us to kind of get prepared for the next few days when we'll be fully introduced to Ruby. So that leads us into Tuesday. We did an Intro to Ruby. This was pretty simple. We went over classes and methods. Since we have a lot of experience now with computer programming, this was a lot easier than with JavaScript. On Wednesday, we went over classes again, methods and inheritance, object-oriented programming, which is much easier through Ruby than it is through JavaScript, which is really nice because JavaScript was really difficult. Day 4 on Thursday, we went over the MVC Framework, models, views, controllers. This is kind of the first time we've used it, so this was good to see because I know a lot of jobs look for MVC experience, and this would be good to have. Also on Thursday, I had office hours with my career coach. I went over my resume to improve it, and there are a few things that I wanted to work on with that. Since resumes are so important, I wanted to ensure that mine is pretty good and fully ready for my job search. And on the last day, we had our morning lecture was a review. We were able to choose which topic we were wanting to fully go over. I chose Ruby since I was sick this week and kind of got behind a little bit on Ruby. I wanted to get a little more experience with the basics and the fundamentals, so I wanted to make sure to do that. So I was able to do that, and that helped a lot. Then in the afternoon, our career coach was all about our elevator pitch and personal brand. A few things I learned was to Google yourself and figure out what comes up, and if it's not something that you really wanted, then how to change that. And then the elevator pitch, we were able to condense it from a minute down to 30 seconds, which is the ideal time for that. Something I've never really worked on. So now that I have it and have a good idea of what it should sound like, I feel pretty well prepared for that. This was probably one of the easier weeks, since it was essentially a 3-day week, because the first day was all about project feedback and the last day was a review and career coach oriented. We had 3 days of new material, so it wasn't as difficult as weeks prior, and with our fundamentals in JavaScript and our foundational understanding of computer programming underway, and with 6 weeks of that, I think this week was much easier to comprehend all the new material, so it wasn't as daunting as before. And the homework was actually pretty simple. I think they've toned it down just a little bit because the next few weeks will be focused on Rails, and that sounds pretty, not difficult, but it's a lot of material. So I think they wanted to have, after such a difficult week of project week, I think they wanted to give us a semi-easy week before we get into harder material and then hit our group project, which is going to be really difficult. But this week was really nice. It's good to get back in the flow of having homework and learning new material, and also having a career coach in class. So that'll get us prepared for Rails and then the group project.